and did what the governments wouldn't do and couldn't probably do, and did the right thing. And that was really encouraging for me, because I think all of us kind of struggle with hope in our country right now because of the political divide and things that we don't agree with. But it was really hopeful to see that when the governments don't do the right thing, people do. And one of the things myself and C-Spray were asking in this interview was, why would you do it? And of course we said, because it's the right thing to do. But C-Spray was asked a question that I think is important that we can all learn from. He was asked, was it worth it? Was it worth it? And he said, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be worth it to do the right thing. And whether it's something like this or in your personal lives, like, I think we all have the ability to do the right thing in our own little spheres of our life. And we always try to balance the ROI, like what are we going to get out of it? What's the return on investment? But it doesn't always have to be worth it to do the right thing. And in this case, I don't know if it was worth it or not. I thought it was worth it to Aziz and his family and the 17,000 Afghans. And I believe that burden God put in our heart. I think it was worth it to God for us to be obedient and go do that call. But I think the world can learn something from this, that there is hope, that there's good people around who will stand up and do the right things. People that supported us were not people that I typically agree with. There's a lot of people that follow me on Instagram that hate me and bash me for my conservative views and stuff like that. But they were writing me like, hey, I don't like you, but what you're doing is awesome. And where can I support? Where can I give money? And it was so cool. And we had this Jewish organization that they wanted to pay for 2 planes, which was like $1.5 million, a big donation. And they called me back and they said, hey, we tried to make the donation, but we can't do it. And I was like, oh, why? Did I give you the wrong routing number or something? And they said, no, we're a Jewish organization, and Mighty Oaks Foundation, my foundation, is a Christian organization, and we can't give you that money. And I said, okay, but you do realize we're rescuing Muslims, right? And we kind of laughed and moved forward, and they made that donation. It was just an amazing moment in time where politics, religion, like nothing else mattered besides good people standing up and do the right thing for other people. And it'll always be like just super special to me to have been part of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the whole thing. And like I said to the audience, go ahead and get the book, Saving Aziz. You can get it anywhere you want to get books. It's an incredible story, and I think it's something young people especially should learn about. And everyone, because it does go to show that there's good people. Everyone wants to be at each other's throats these days. That's kind of what the media teaches you to do. Hate each other. Everyone's a villain. If you disagree, you have to hate. Not true. Not true at all. So I think your story represents that you can, a lot of good out there. Now on the Ukraine, because I do want to talk about this, because the war is ongoing. What was your experience when it comes to the situation in Ukraine?
Well, it's changed. It's changed since I began. It started in February. We had ceasefires on the ground before the invasion because we knew it was coming. We were watching it unfold. And then I went immediately after the invasion. I was in Ukraine, days after the invasion. And originally we went there to see, hey, how can we help? Afghanistan is a lot different. People couldn't go in Afghanistan and load up mass amounts of people to get them out. We were able to do that. Ukraine, people could drive a bus across the border, open the door, load it up, and get people out. So the mass evacs were not something we needed to do. And one of the things about special operations is you do what's special, you do what other people can't.
probably should have asked this earlier, but how much cash do you have on you?
Did you not bring enough money to cover this game?
I brought like 80 minus 60. You ready?
Born ready.
What's up with your boy?
He's almost done.
I'm like the P.T. Anderson of basketball psychological warfare.
Who is P.T. Anderson?
Our greatest living director.
Spike Lee is our greatest living director.
Spike Lee's not even a good Knicks fan.
I knew this was a mistake.
Rated R.
The reboot of White Men Can't Jump. Chad, your thoughts?
No one was asking for this. The original is a cinematic classic. Woody Harrelson and Wesley Snipes and oh gosh, I'm blanking on her name now. Rosie Perez. Thank you. I'm watching another show right now with her in it, Your Honor, with Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad. That's really good. Yeah, look, there are times that you can tinker with something from a past era, 80s or 90s, and turn it into something that's relevant in today's climate, in today's entertainment world. There are other times where if you got to go to Jack Harlow to play the part of Woody Harrelson, that's a pretty big step down. So I don't know that you need to mess with that in terms of White Men Can't Jump. I love the original movie. That trailer wasn't terrible. I thought it was okay, way better than 80 for Brady, which we'll get into later. So I thought it looked okay. It looked nice and clean and polished and well-produced and all that. Jack Harlow wasn't awful in the trailer, but I still watch the trailer and immediately think, why are we doing this? Are we adding something to it? Is there a different element to this one? Is it a shot-for-shot remake? Because they do have the same subway stop or whatever they're getting off of at one point going down the stairs in this movie. So I guess my big question, Hutton, is why?
I just hope I hope it's better than what Space Jam 2 apparently was. You know, like there was, again, you're tying in the star with the Space Jam, the catalog. I get it. But I don't hear anyone talking about that the way we talked about the original, right? And this, you're right, no one's asking for this.
I used to watch this on VHS all the time as a kid. I love this movie, the original. Now, when I first saw that they were going to remake or reboot White Men Can't Jump, I thought, okay, it's going to be a series. You expand it out, right? It's a whole universe. Like you're going to have the hustler that comes to L.A. and is hustling people in basketball games, but there's got to be like a life behind it. There's got to be more of a backstory. There's got to be a cast of characters.
Yeah, like an And One tour.
Well, like a cast of characters playing pickup ball, or whatever, and it's a show.
Yeah.
That would be my pitch if I were doing it. But they actually came in and said, no, we just want to do White Men Can't Jump in 90 minutes again. One movie. I don't get that.
It's like they just
I'd be more excited about
Jack
a show.
Harlow on their site.
This is Jack Harlow's big break, right? We're gonna break. This is the 8 Mile for Jack Harlow. Like when Eminem said, I'm gonna do a movie, but it's gonna be a drama. I'm gonna play a white. It's gonna be loosely autobiographical, but I'm gonna play a white rapper named B Rabbit. Then that's where they wanted to go with this. Jack Harlow, who grew up in Kentucky, I'm guessing playing basketball. I can play basketball, so now I'm going to do this.
Chad, was basketball played between Tennessee and Auburn this weekend? Is that what you would call that?
Rugby, maybe.
It felt like,
It was
a physical scrum.
It was tough to watch.
Game that was in the final. Tennessee won. They hung on to win. Game was in the 40s. Played in the 40s.
46-43. I want to say it's like the lowest scoring SEC game since 1985. I think I read that. Between two teams in the SEC. 46-43 final. It was 23-19 at halftime. Tennessee was down 8-0 and down 10-2.
They played with the women's basketball?
I thought that would have been, wouldn't that have been a big turn. Then at the end, Rick Barnes said, I got the problem. We played with a girls' ball the entire
first
time.
half, yeah.
It was tough to watch. Neither team got great looks. It was good defense throughout the game, but it was also every open shot or remotely open shot, nothing was going to fall for either team.
You did watch a great game between Duke and Carolina.
Yeah.
It lived up to the expectation. I went back and watched the highlights of this. I was not expecting this to be what they were trying to make it out to. It always is, though, between these two and Tobacco Road.
And that was the first time in the history of that series that the two coaches in the series played in the rivalry, head-to-head. Isn't that crazy? They've never had until now John Shire versus Hubert Davis, two men who played head to head. Well, you had 40 years of close to it of Coach Krzyzewski, who played at Army, so that's a big part of it. Derek Lively was terrific. He had 4 points, but he had 18 rebounds and 14 rebounds and 8 blocks.
The blocks, yeah.
He affected the game in a huge way for Duke. I thought he was great, 5-star freshman, big man. Really entertaining game. I watched most of the second half of that one. Always a fun one to watch, but even when those two teams aren't ranked, there's still great drama down the stretch.
And the Cameron Indoor, too.
Yeah.
Great.
And that is the first marquee win for John Shire. I don't care if Carolina's not ranked. They were preseason number 1, and he won the Tobacco Road rivalry.
What has happened with Carolina to fall like this?
It's hard to
not fall to
pinpoint.
Duke, but to fall the way they have over the last few months.
They haven't had terrible injuries. Baycott plays. Caleb Love, who was the star of the NCAA tournament a year ago, he's playing. I don't know.
I went and watched over the weekend Knock at the Cabin.
Oh, yeah?
Solid. The new M. Night Shyamalan movie.
I want to watch this.
Solid job yet again by him. I would go see that over 80 for Brady. I nearly sent you and Davey a photo of 80 for Brady outside the theater because there were actually people that went and saw this. And
we need to check the box office on that.
To make it as if I was going into that theater,
Yeah.
I held back, though. I didn't want the ridicule of Withrow.
A little bit later in the show,
I didn't want to see Matt in there.
I got or Alejandro may have flown in. He loves the damn movie so much he may be going to every city in America to watch it, to make sure he pumps up the box office everywhere. I got a review from my aunt we'll get into later, for her birthday, her request, Hutton, 80 for Brady in theaters. So she gave me a review.
My guess is it's glowing. I can't wait to hear the specifics of this. Coming up in about 20 minutes, Jeff Fisher will join us in studio here at 6th and Peabody. We'll talk with the former NFL and USFL head coach about the decision this past week that came out with him not coaching the USFL this upcoming season and what's in store on the horizon. Plus, his thoughts on the head coaching hires across the NFL and 2 to be made, including the Cardinals, who have narrowed it down to 3 coaches: Brian Flores, Lou Anarumo, and Mike Kafka, with Monty Ossenfort, the new general manager there. All of that and more. We lead off, though, with Dan Dakich next on OutKick 360.
College football's in trouble. There's a lot of people trying to keep it from happening.
I think it's a general consensus across the college football landscape. We want to play football.
College football is a huge part of the fall. It's a huge part of Americana itself.
It just really felt like people in the country needed college football to just feel a little sense of normal.
Big news from the Big Ten as the conference releasing its 10-game football schedule.
We go home thinking there's going to be practice the next day. Everybody gets a text, stay home, everything's canceled.
Big Ten fall football season has been canceled.
We just believe collectively there's too much uncertainty.
I guess what I'm trying to understand, though, Kevin, is that was the same position you had 6 days ago.
The Big Ten is an unmitigated disaster.
There was a ton of confusion. There was presidents saying one thing, there was coaches saying another.
Players had to be silent, coaches had to be silent, ADs had to be silent.
People said, how does what you just did make any sense?
And nobody really knew what the heck happened when they voted to cancel the season.
You make this huge historical announcement, and then Kevin Warren never does a press conference to explain it. It was like a masterclass in how not to handle a crisis.
The word really that was lacking in all of this is transparency.
It felt like a lot of stuff was happening behind closed doors.
Even today, we still don't know what occurred.
So you don't tell us parents, that's fine, but you're not telling the young men that it affects.
We have to make a decision to save the season. What about the history books? What about the rivalry games? What about Paul Bunyan's axe? How is that not going to go to a team this year?
This is a failure of epic magnitude. The Big Ten presidents and leaders should be held accountable for the disastrous decisions that they're making.
Then the commissioner doubles down, saying his decision will not be revisited.
And that's the point. It felt like a war was declared on the Big Ten and Kevin Warren.
Everything turned political.
Because if this is medical, then you would have stopped the game of football a long time ago.
I think the Big Ten leaders will tell you that they probably made a mistake in hindsight.
If I had the chance to do it all over last year, I would make the same decisions that we made.
Former Rams and Titans head coach Jeff Fisher will be in studio with us in 15 minutes. Looking forward to having him in for discussion on many topics, including the new hires across the NFL, the finalists in Arizona, and what's going to happen in Indy. I'm not sure Jeff can tell us all of that with Irsay, but we'll give our opinion on it. Also looking forward to just chatting about the future for him, which is not going to include the USFL. And Chad, you and I, we watched the 30 for 30 on the Baltimore Ravens, and his Titans teams were a big part of discussion and all of that with the rivalry.
I could not stop thinking about Coach Fisher and our talk with him today, watching this, because the era that this documentary encapsulates was so fantastic.
Yeah, I miss it.
And those Ravens-Titans games and that entire AFC Central at the time, just great when you watch some of this. What is now old footage doesn't feel that old to me. I remember the games well, but now we're looking back 23 years ago with this 2000 season. But it's really well done, that 30 for 30.
We lead off the hour, though, with Dan Dakich. Don't at me with Dan Dakich mornings across the OutKick network, and he joins us each Monday on OutKick 360. Dan, good to see you, man.
Oh, my God, am I doing good? I'm wearing red. The Hoosiers got to win. The Colts are still looking for a coach, but I don't care. Purdue, the natural order of things in the state of Indiana is back as Purdue got their brains beat out in Assembly Hall. And the women went into Mackey Arena and beat them, so life is good.
So what did you learn about your Hoosiers facing off against the top-ranked team and taking them down by 5?
Nothing that we didn't already know. They're a bit of a front-running team. They're good at home. We'll see if they can stack wins. I really learned a lot about Purdue, frankly. Going in, and I've been there, I was there 17 years, so that's 17 home games with Purdue, 17 crazy fans. There are some nights in Assembly Hall the opposing team isn't going to win, and most nights the opposing team cracks and goes away. I actually learned more about Purdue. I came away really impressed. Assembly Hall was insane. Purdue down. Indiana playing out of their mind, but Purdue had a real chance to win the game, and that's a testament to them. Indiana's good, but Indiana, we'll see. Can they come back and beat Rutgers? It's tough. College basketball's tough. You saw a bad no call in the Auburn-Tennessee game. Tennessee and Auburn grinding it out. A lot of even teams, but I think Purdue's pretty good.
Well, I'm going to ask you about that. You said it's a bad no call. the same player got hit with a technical for flopping, extending the arms out on a shot and putting his legs around a defender earlier. I think he gets that call if that doesn't happen. He had gotten warned about it once. He got the call one other time in the game. I thought Como on the play did a good job of staying straight up, but certainly an argument could be made that he was underneath his landing space. But what do you think about that when officials see someone trying to milk something for a call? Do they then go back and you're less likely to get it later in the game?
Yeah, you'd like to think that that wouldn't come into play, right? You'd like to think that, all right, this happened, we called it. Now this is going to happen, we called it. Now that's going to happen, we called it. You know, it's the same thing with the age-old argument of, hey, look, you don't make that call at the end of the game. Officials will tell you, I got to make the same call at the end of the game that I make earlier. I know exactly what you're saying, and I just think officials are human. I mean, human nature says, look, with this particular guy, I'm looking for the flop. But, you know, one of the things, the reason I said it was a bad call was because every year there are points of emphasis for officials. And one of the points of emphasis this year and last year was coming down in somebody's shooting space because of ankles, ankle injury, guys stepping underneath. Players actually started doing that kind of stuff on purpose to injure other players. You know, I thought the pressure was pretty good, but you got to let a guy come down if you're going to use that as a point of emphasis. But I get what you're saying. Look, there is no doubt, absolutely no doubt, that you don't want officials to be human. You want them to call this way, but they are, and those things factor in. Totally agree with you.
What'd you make of Jim Boeheim's comments about Pittsburgh and Wake Forest and Miami buying guys and his top booster? He won't pay anyone on his team. Give us the Dan Dakich Indiana basketball school of thought on things like this when they're said.
Well, the Indiana basketball school of thought with Bob Knight was everybody else is cheating. I mean, we didn't get a recruit while they're cheating. You know, that's the Indiana Bob Knight school. I swear to God, it
sounds
is.
like one of you guys. He sounds like he played for Bob Knight when he starts saying these things in a press conference.
Yeah, I'm a big Jim Boeheim fan, and I sent him a text. I said, I don't know if you're right or wrong, but I love it. I didn't hear back from him. Usually I hear back from him. The truth of the matter is there were always rumors about why'd Billy Owens end up at Syracuse? Why Derek Coleman? Why those guys from Detroit? I know Dave Bing played at Syracuse. There were always rumors about, hey, man, what's going on when they play at the Garden? I will tell you this, Brevin Knight, the assistant, who's a great player at Pittsburgh and is assistant now at Rutgers, basically said, hey, Coach Boeheim, we know what was going on before NIL. Don't throw stones in a glass house. I don't know. Everybody always asks me, well, who did you know was cheating? The only team that I knew was cheating was West Virginia when I went there to be the head coach, and I had players, I had coaches, I had everybody giving me firsthand information. But I love the fact that Boeheim said it. I don't like the fact that he backed off of it. Hey, look, you can do that now. When you lose, hell, they bought a team. That was the Bob Knight when we lost a recruit. What? He's going to Michigan? They paid him. What? He's going to wherever? You know they were doing things. So lose a game, blame cheating. I'm all in on it. Good for Boeheim. He's 78. What does he care?
Well, good for Boeheim saying it. I'm not surprised that we hear a coach say it. It's who he named with Pitt and Miami and Wake Forest.
Yeah.
That's why I was like,
not exactly Murderer's Row.
What is this?
He's talking about.
I was more surprised, Dan, about the teams involved.
Well, Miami had been involved. In fact, Jim Larinaga, his program was brought up in the Southern District of New York investigation a few years ago. And I swear to God, I saw Larinaga in the summer, and he looked like death. You could tell he was sweating everything out. So their program had been mentioned going backwards. Now, who did Boeheim lose to? Well, you got to look. He lost to Wake. He lost. So then you're going to make those accusations. I think it's all silly. I think right now, in the public eye in college basketball, people roll their eyes. And they say, well, you know what? I've had people tell me this today. Well, you know what, Jim? Your big booster should get involved. And, oh, by the way, he just got a big-time recruit that signed up. And guess what? That recruit was sitting with one of Boeheim's biggest boosters, front row at the Garden, hanging with some boosters about a week ago. So, you know what? I love Boeheim. I love that he did it. Hate that he apologized for it. But that's the modern world in college basketball, and I honestly don't think anybody really cares.
What's going to happen with the Colts? What's going on with Jim Irsay?
They had 8 weeks before anybody else. Maybe Carolina did too. They had 8 weeks. They had 8 weeks. You know what? They had a head start. They got rid of what's-his-face Reich a month before the season end or more, 8 weeks. I don't know. And anybody that tells you they do know, they are lying to you. They are. I saw today where all of a sudden Wink Martindale, or whatever that guy's name is now the guy that's supposed to come in here and be the head. I saw his odds in Vegas went to minus 700. I will tell you this. Would it surprise me if Jimmy Irsay hired a defensive guy? No, it would not. What I think Jimmy Irsay wants to do is hire Jeff Saturday. I think he's in love with the era of Jeff Saturday, Reggie Miller, Peyton Manning, and all that. I think he's getting a ton of pushback from a number of areas. One, within his own building from Ballard. Two, fans are like, hey, look, what are you doing? The guy had an audition. He went 1 for 7. Like, it wasn't even a good 1 for 7. It was a crap 1 for 7. So I would argue that Vegas always knows. Martindale jumping up like he did today tells me something, but I will tell you this. If anybody in the media or anybody anywhere gives a definitive, this is what they're doing, they are not telling the truth. I got 2 guys that tell me everything, and frankly, they have been right, honest to God, every time. I've been called a jerk, an idiot, all this stuff because of what they've told me, and it's turned out to be right. They tell me they got no idea. Would it surprise me if Jim Irsay fell in love with me, Wink Martindale? No, it wouldn't surprise me. Hell, talk to a guy, Jim Irsay, you know, would it surprise me if he hired Saturday? No, but they've had plenty of time, and this is not, I don't care what you believe. The Indianapolis media is covering for Chris Ballard. This has been an unorganized mess. Sean Payton didn't want to interview. D'Amico Ryan said, no, we're good. They had no idea. This is not a real attractive thing right now, so maybe Martindale's the guy. Maybe it works out well.
Dan, the other unusual part of this is you mentioned the length of how much time has passed since Wright was out. They're not allowing Gus Bradley to interview for a lateral move elsewhere. He's under contract as the defensive coordinator in Indy, but normally if you're changing head coaches and your staff wants out, now, I mean, it's past time for teams to put staffs together for the most part. And, you know, this is another sign that they're staying with the status quo, isn't it?
It kind of is. They have screwed guys before. They screwed a guy named Ron Prince, who was the head coach at Kansas State. They screwed him big time. Pagano did, actually, in a situation just like this. So, look, whether status quo is we're going to hire, you know, Martindale, we're going to have a defensive coordinator that he knows, or whether status quo is, hey, our defense was okay, we're going to have an established head coach with Jeff Saturday. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you. Jimmy Irsay has played this close to the vest. I'm assuming, and this is the way the Colts operate, I assume at some point fairly soon, maybe within the next week or two, you're going to see, maybe sooner than that actually, you're going to see Chris Mortensen, old Mort's going to have some kind of tweet, because that's Jimmy Irsay's go-to guy when he wants stuff leaked. So I assume you're going to see old Mort come out with something.
Has John Morant or anyone in his entourage pointed a laser or anything at you? I know he's been pointing at the Indiana Pacers. I didn't know if it was just anyone from Indiana. What do you make of that crazy story?
I make that there's a father that can't handle his son's success. So many times we talk about, hey, look, a kid can't handle success. Hey, this idiot dad and the idiot brother, you know, Morant's saying, well, they checked it out, nothing's happening, except that his brother has been banned from home games. Do you know how hard it is to be banned from home games, number one? Number two, how hard it is when your brother is the face of that city and one of the faces of the NBA. My guys in Indy tell me it absolutely happened. Now, whatever the NBA wants to do with it, I know the security people there, and they are great dudes. They do not lie. And one of them said, yeah, it was like, I think in the article he said, yeah, it was definitely a gun. These guys know guns. These guys know this. So the NBA, being with the NBA, the most woke of all leagues, will brush it aside. Morant came out with a typically idiotic statement. His dad acts like a fool. His brother's been banned. John Morant's great and by all accounts a fantastic kid, but his people are complete dummies, and he's got to separate himself or something really bad is going to happen. Imagine this. Imagine you're in a car. You're in your own arena, and all of a sudden one of your idiot friends points a gun or at least a laser, and John Morant's like the softest dude ever. Like he's as un-gangster or whatever you want to call it ever. But here he is trying to be something he isn't. He got to get rid of his own family members, and that ain't easy to do.
Would you ever have to tell a player that as a coach?
I told a player he had to get rid of the hottest girl on campus once because I heard she was selling weed. I'm like, dude, you got to get rid of her or you got to go home because she's selling weed. I know she's selling weed, and you're going to get caught being in her apartment. Hey, to the kid's credit, he did it. Good for him. And then he transferred, but what are you going to do?
It's not normally the hot girl that's a drug dealer on campus, too.
Yeah, very unusual.
Very unusual, whatever's going on that campus.
There's two things about really hot girls. They're never the ones screaming at their kids at the supermarket, and they're never the ones selling weed. And I'm telling you, I told this kid, I go, this is very odd to me. Like, this girl is the one selling the weed. Like, no, but she was, and actually she admitted it. I got to know her. She admitted it years later. She goes, how'd you know? And I said, I can't tell them. I can't give my sources.
You can't bury your sources ever.
Hey, it's going to be a really fun week across the network for us, Dan. We're headed out to Arizona tomorrow. I know you're going to have coverage from Radio Row as well with our setup. It's going to be a blast, and here's hoping we get a really good game on Sunday.
Yeah, we got Will Kane on tomorrow, which is perfect because Kyrie Irving comes to Dallas, and Will Kane from Fox News is like Mr. Dallas. Then we got Anthony Munoz on. True story. I used to wear his clothes. I used to wear Munoz wear when I was the head coach at Bowling Green. Swear to God, they sold it at Target. It was incredibly comfortable clothes, or Kmart. I think it was Kmart. I swear to God. My friends used to go, my friends would go, are you wearing Munoz wear? I go, yeah, I love Munoz wear. So I can't wait till tomorrow. It's going to be fun.
What's the old market, Chad? Roses or something like that? That's where Dan was.
That's amazing. The Kmart reference that they're now completely gone, too.
Yeah. Hey, well, look forward to it, Dan. Keep up the great work. We'll chat soon.
All right, guys, travel safe. Thanks.
Yeah, man.
See you guys.
Don't At Me with Dan Dakich, mornings, 9 a.m. Eastern, right here on the OutKick Network. Coming up, Jeff Fisher joins us in studio here at 6th and Peabody. A lot to discuss across the NFL and more. It's all straight ahead on OutKick 360.
It's so crazy because Tom Brady is just a touch older than me. I believe now there are no NFL players older than me, which that's the first time in my life I can say that.
Okay.
So now I feel really old. Now I feel truly and really old.
I'm sorry, man. God, that's horrible. I didn't know that feeling. I'm
Maybe
sorry.
there's a punter or a kicker. I have to check. Maybe I'm hoping there's like an old, like a long-time punter, kicker, or long snapper that's older than me, but I don't think so. And it's amazing to me thinking about Brady the last few years. Like, I know how I feel when I wake up in the morning. I can't even imagine attempting to play in the NFL like this.
Right? Yeah. I mean, well, I don't even know if last season should have happened, but that's not up for me. It's not for anybody to sit there and argue.
I don't have the drive Tom Brady has. I'm very willing to admit that.
Right.
It seemed to me, just as an outsider with no inside information whatsoever, that he retired and that he engaged in normal life for the first time in a long time. I was like, yeah, this sucks. I'm getting back to the NFL.
I don't like the daycare thing. I love my kids, but I don't like dropping it off. I don't want to go play pickleball at 3:00 in the afternoon. Like, let's get back to normal. But it'd be interesting. Like, I don't know if we'll see another quarterback take it that far, Andy, in the NFL. Like, he really pushed the limits,
Rodgers,
right?
Yeah, you got Aaron Rodgers going to be 39. You got him hinting at retirement now, and it does feel like the game's maybe taking a little more toll on his body than Brady. Maybe there's some ayahuasca that'll fix that. But it's crazy that it lasted this long. I mean, I think back to how much my life is, I graduated college in 2000 and, working my first job, watching Tom Brady lead the Patriots when they were the underdogs to the win against the Rams in the Super Bowl and thinking, well, that's a cool story. 6th-round guy, hope the career works out for him. And the level of winning and just consistency, I'm not sure we're going to see it again.
No. And I don't, especially with a quarterback who has that tenacity, he also puts in everything into the game. Like, it's like he can't take a breather. And it just, he has a different workflow. It kind of reminded me of what Kobe Bryant used to do in the NBA. Or you can go on and name them on.
Yeah.
But now, but I'm interested to see now, what that looks like in the future. And does this, and I'll ask you this because this news could break while we're down here in Mobile. Todd Monken, Georgia offensive coordinator. Does this make room for him now to potentially say, okay, I can go to Tampa. We can go find a quarterback that works for me in my system and maybe take over the offensive coordinator position? What have your thoughts been on the Monken Buccaneer stuff?
Are you ready for Stetson Bennett as the Buccaneers starting quarterback? Are we ready to live in a world where Stetson Bennett makes that pirate ship go boom? Can
I'm
that
excited.
happen?
It can in the 6th round.
It's very interesting because, Monken, I think, you look at that tenure with Jameis Winston in Tampa, it didn't go as well as anybody would have wanted. And maybe Monken going, well, if I had a different quarterback, one who didn't put the ball in harm's way as often, perhaps that works out.
Sixth and Peabody, our location for OutKick 360 with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hutton and Withrow with you, joined in studio here on site by Jeff Fisher, former Titans and Rams head coach, former Michigan Panthers head coach of the USFL as well. Announced late last week that he will not return for Season 2 of the USFL. Coach, good to see you in studio with us, man.
Thanks for having me. This is kind of cool.
Yeah.
You guys call this home.
Welcome back.
This is good. I like it.
Chad, your thoughts on Fish's debut as a co-host whenever you were out in Nebraska?
It was almost too good. I watched it and I was like, damn, we don't need him to be too good out there when I'm gone. And he was that good. So that was my impression. Nice digs around here, though, right, Coach?
They are. I remember, Chad, would you agree with what I just said? I just kept giving you the thumbs up while you were gone.
Yeah, exactly. I was watching from Nebraska thinking, that's right. That's it. You keep doing that right there. Whatever you're doing was working too much. You did a great job, but we knew you would.
Well, it's Hutton. He brings the best out in everybody.
He's an excellent point guard.
Your thoughts.
He's an excellent point guard. Great distributor of the basketball.
Yeah.
I know you really enjoyed last season with the USFL. Why did you decide to not return this year?
Appreciate you asking. It was it was a blast getting in on the ground floor, helping everybody, my new friends at Fox, and then all the coaches, and work with Mike Pereira and officials and the players. I really had a blast, and I was really happy to see the way it took off. I was a little disappointed in my record things, but I can explain that later date. But anyway, I'm convinced that they're off to a great start. They're going to see year two, and I felt like I was just better off stepping out when I did. And I'm going to try to stay on, try to help them however I can. I'm going to be 2 hours from, both hubs, or two of the hubs, in Memphis and Birmingham, and then, just a quick flight away, from, the Canton and the Michigan hubs, just so, if they need my help, I'm going to help them. But it was time, as I mentioned in my statement with Fox, it's just, I got 5 grandbabies, and I've been doing this a long, long time. And I just wanted to have, the freedom to do what I wanted to in the spring. And in addition to that, I'm kind of messing around with maybe launching my this kind of radio thing career.
That
so
may be on the horizon.
I'm hoping that is, but I really enjoyed it. I'm gonna miss the coaches, miss the players, and I think, as I mentioned to you, somebody asked me after 2 or 3 weeks, and we were struggling, and all kinds of things were going on. Players were getting hit by drones in the huddle, and the coach the quarterback system's going off, and we can't practice, and it was just, they said, knowing what you know now, would you do it all over again? And I said, why don't you ask me, when the season's over, and then ask me again in July. And so season was over. I had, at that point, I had 2 or 3 coaches that got into the league as, minority internship type program. And then, we had, in week 17 last year, I had 2 of our players on active rosters. And that's really why I did it. I was in it to help young coaches, to give them advice, and then as well as to help the young players.
Well, mission accomplished on both ends there.
Very cool.
Sean Payton's back in after a year off, head coach for the Denver Broncos. What do you think about the year off, jumping back into it, and now it's Payton and Russell Wilson together, and they're locked into it based on investment with 3 first-round picks, 3 second-round picks, and more that they've invested in those 2 guys?
Well, I'm not putting Russell in the same class as Drew, but Russell can win games. I tossed and turned so many nights over Russell, when we had those matchups and with the Rams and the Seahawks. But I think it's a great combination. I think Sean's going to do really well with him. I'd like to see Russell maybe shed a few pounds. This is just me personally. I thought maybe he got, maybe there were injuries or whatever, but he just didn't look as fit to me as he was in years past. If he does that and he's mobile, I think it's a great matchup. Now, you understand there's new ownership there. A new owner is probably better suited being paired with somebody with Sean's experience, so that he can explain to him why this happened, when this happened, and what the thinking is, and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a great matchup. Denver's got a great fan base. It's unfortunate that what happened, the decisions that they made last year, and what happened to them. But if anybody's going to pull him back, it's going to be Sean. And keep in mind, I mean, he pretty much had his pick. From what I understand, he could have gone wherever he wanted, and he chose this because of ownership, because of the roster, and because of the opportunity to work with Russell.
I'm curious. He had his opening press conference today. Payton did, and he was asked. One of the things he said was in his introduction, he was asked about Russell Wilson. He said one of the things is we're no longer going to have personal coaches in the building like last season. Quote, that's not going to happen here. That's not going to take place here. Did you have instances of this where you have rookies coming in trying to bring their own crew through? This is unusual because of the veteran aspect, at least for me. And to me, the Broncos would have known this up front by trading for Russell Wilson. Maybe I'm wrong there. Having his own coaches
clarify
there.
That. What do you mean his own coaches? Is he suggesting that Russell had his own coach in the building with somebody
coaches
other than on the staff?
Yes. I'll read it direct. Sean Payton introduced as the Broncos' new coach today. One of the things he said was Russell Wilson will no longer be allowed to have his personal coaches in the building like last season. Quote, that's not going to take place here.
Well, with all due respect to Nathaniel Hackett, You know, I played in college for Paul Hackett, and I know the family. And you know, I did a game for Fox down there, the Jets at Jacksonville, and spent some time with him and actually interviewed Nathaniel. But he wasn't ready to be a head coach. And, you know, and then I heard, you guys can verify this, 4 weeks into it, he goes out and he hires a game management person.
Yes.
So that place was doomed to fail from the get-go. And if he let players bring in those kinds of assistants and, you know, own trainers and this and that, then, yeah, it's all out of control. And so, yeah, if that's what Sean's talking about, that's a no-brainer. I mean, everybody should know better than that.
You had a chance to coach for two different franchises, Titans and the Rams. Frank Reich is now going to get that opportunity to be a head coach again, first with the Colts, now with the Panthers. What do you think about that move for Carolina, the job Frank did in Indy, and maybe some of the benefits of the second go-around and things you learn in between jobs when you take the next job?
Well, I think he didn't get enough time to reflect and learn from it because, you know, true. I think I said this on the last time we visited. Do you think the Colts with Frank Reich as a head coach would have given up a 28 or 32 point lead to Minnesota?
No, the answer is no.
With 12
Absolutely
minutes left
not.
to go in the fourth quarter? I mean,
No.
and then he's on the streets. I mean, really? So I'm happy for Frank. I mean, Frank's done it before. Frank's been all over the place. He knows what he's doing. You know, I just wish the owners would have a little bit more patience. And, you know, that's a great situation for him down there. I mean, they'll get a young quarterback in there and, you know, he'll turn that thing around real quick. They've got good defensive players. And, you know, Frank understands the importance of surrounding yourself with a good staff. And he had a good staff up in Indy, you know, when he was escorted out the door. So, and that brings up Indy for that matter. I've not heard anything. I don't know what they're doing up there.
What's the longest interview you sat in?
You know,
just as
head coaches interview.
If you were interviewing any time in your career, what was the longest interview you had to sit through?
Oh gosh, maybe. I mean, I interviewed with Floyd Reese for like 3 weeks, so off and on. I mean, I was interim, but you know, we just hung out every day and talked about it, and then all of a sudden, yeah, it was going to work. But
so the reports are like they're having a third round of interviews in Indy, and some of them are lasting. The third round are lasting up to 12 hours plus with Irsay.
I don't know. I mean,
that's unusual.
It's highly unusual. I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, especially if you're being asked back for a second and a third one.
Yeah.
But you know, somebody's in his ear. You know, he's got somebody that's helping him. Someone's in his ear, and they're going to do it this way. Don't be surprised if there's some kind of, I would say, some kind of search firm involved that is working behind the scenes that nobody really wants anything, you know, out as far as that's concerned. I could see that. I mean, there have been other NFL teams that have hired search firms, and not officially search firms, but they've had a group of people surrounding the owner that, you know, all have their opinions, and they're going to kind of push things. And, you know, because I know that was the case down in Jacksonville before they hired Doug. So, no, the year before Doug.
Urban Meyer.
Yes.
Urban Meyer, yeah.
Yes.
So Jeff Fisher in studio with us. D'Amico Ryan's the new head coach in Houston, back for the organization that he played for. And look, he took over a very talented San Francisco defense, right? When Robert Saleh became the head coach of the Jets. And credit to him, young, up-and-coming, great leader. What's he entering in Houston that I think we're taking for granted with what he had in San Francisco?
Well, I mean, you just state the obvious. There's a huge difference in the ability level based on the defenses. And so, you know, this is what it comes down to. It comes down to ownership giving him the opportunity to build that team, a reasonable opportunity of 4 to 5 years, and build that team and build it right. He's going to have to work with a GM there, and they're going to have to make the right decisions, but he's got to be given that opportunity. You can't expect him, you know, that's coordinated with a really good group of defensive players to have the same outcome next year. It's going to take him a while. In addition to, it's going to take him years to figure out how to be a head coach. It's going to take him time to learn how to manage games and so on and so forth. I mean, you know, there's a big difference between coordinating a defense and running an organization, and that's where I think, you know, two things happen. Guys aren't equipped to do it, or they're not, as they're learning, they're not given the time to figure out how to do it. And so, there's a lot of good coaches out there that can coach good players. And, what's the telltale sign is how can you build a team and build it as quickly as you can with this number one goal being to sustain. You have to be able to sustain year in and year out.
What did you make of the whole magic show in New England this year, where we didn't know who was the coordinator of the offense, the defense, and who was calling plays on either side, and there's a lot of mystery surrounding it. But now they get to bring back Bill O'Brien to be offensive coordinator, and that long history between him and Bill Belichick. How much of a help is that going to be for that team?
Well, I think it's going to be a settling factor for Bill. For both. Bill O'Brien is obviously very good at what he does. He because he was such a good coordinator, he got an opportunity to become a head coach. And then, obviously what he did for Nick down in Alabama is really impressive. So, I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Bill Belichick, too, because he's got his guys back. And if Matt ends up going over and helping his son on the defensive side, and you got O'Brien there, and you got an up-and-coming quarterback, you got a contender all over again.
Did you ever move defensive coaches to offense like that?
No, not
that doesn't
not
normally
over
help.
an off season.
Yeah.
Well, but there's also that thing. There's that stigma. This guy's a defensive guy. Okay, so I was always referred to as a defensive-minded head coach. But also, what did I do for all those years as a defensive coordinator and all that stuff? What do? You defend offenses. So you can make a case that we know about as much, if not more, than offensive coordinators know about offense and what it's supposed to look like and how it's supposed to work. So, the Patriots got within a game or two of making the playoffs again.
Yeah.
In a real competitive division. Yeah, with the staff doing things that they weren't normally used to doing. I'd say that's pretty impressive. Those are pretty impressive coaches on that staff.
You hear this so much, and all these hires are being made, but about different people. Nick Sirianni's one of them. Other coaches that were around him would say, I knew he was going to be a head coach one day. I knew he had head coach potential in him. Is that something that's easy to see when you work around someone, when you're a head coach and someone's working for you, that you can clearly see, okay, this guy's going to be a head coach one day? And did someone ever say that about you when you were working on a staff, where they come back later and say, yeah, I knew you were going to be a head coach in the NFL?
You hear it from time and time again, but usually it's after you're well on your way. And people will say that. The one thing about Philly and what Nick did was he took over a loaded team. He took over a very talented team. Yeah, it slipped and stumbled along the way under Doug, but it wasn't just that team's roster wasn't devastated. And so he was able to do that. And then you get the quarterback play and the experience and good coaches and a division that's highly competitive. And so he's much deserving of the credit there. But he did in a short time take over and elevate a talented team, obviously the Super Bowl, and he should be, commended and regarded as one of the top coaches in the league right now.
Their defense, man, 78 sacks, I believe, is what they're up to right now in the pass rush. Best pass defense. That's credit to their pass rush. When you think of the Mahomes, Andy Reid offense, Jeff, what must they do other than just protect the quarterback? What do they have to do to beat Philly on Sunday?
Well, you're going to have to run the football. You're going to have to do,
which they're not known for.
And they're not known for that, but that's one way to shut down the rush. And it doesn't mean you got to pin your ears back and go right at them. You can run draws and you can, do stuff like that just to slow them down, but they're going to have to get them out of what the defense does best, and that's rush the passer and play pass defense. Now, keep this in mind also, those statistics are there because this offense has scored a lot of points over the year, and they're playing, with a lead, and teams are playing catch up, and they're just, there's no more fun on defense than to get out there and protect the lead and rush the passer when you absolutely have. When you don't have to read, run, or pass. When you can just roll off and go, and that's what they've done. So, Andy'll figure it out. He's done it. He does it seems to do it every year. It looks like, Patrick's going to be all right, and it's going to be a great ball game. I hope for all of our sake that it's not a 6-3 game. I hope it's one of those.
It doesn't feel like it's going to be, but I mean, who knows?
Yeah, it's hard, especially with the 2 weeks, and anything can happen.
Jeff Fisher in studio with us. Chad, you've watched the 30 for 30, right?
Yeah,
that was
Bullies of Baltimore, and there's a lot of Jeff Fisher-led Titans content in this documentary. But really, it just took me back to an era, Coach, of just, the game was different then. And we're talking about the year 2000, but some of the hits on the quarterbacks and the physicality it was played with. The fact that the Ravens were holding teams to 79 yards of total offense for an entire game, it was just a different era. That's what jumped to my mind when watching this. I think you're going to enjoy it when you get a chance to see it. But it really brought me back to an era that you're very familiar with in the NFL.
Well, it was it was a great few years, the 99 season and then the 2000 season. 01, we kind of stumbled with injuries and things, but we bounced back, in 02 with a championship game loss, and then 03 with a loss to New England in the divisional playoffs. So, we were winning a lot of games at that point. You guys did on break bring up the fact that Coach Billick was boasting a little bit about the fact that they awarded us our first loss in franchise history in the new stadium.
Right.
So, and they actually, I think it was the first 2 losses came to them because we had this regular season loss and then we had the playoff loss. So, if we lost 2 games over 2 years, including playoff games at home, that's a pretty good run. But they always have bragging rights because they got the ring in the 2000 season, and we didn't. But it was always a great matchup. Ray and Eddie and the McAllister and the receivers and whoever's playing quarterback for them. And who was the quarterback in 2000 for them?
It started with Tony Banks.
Yeah,
and then went to Trent Dilfer.
Okay, Trent Dilfer. Trent used to work here in Nashville, didn't he?
He did.
His fault?
Yes, yeah.
UAB. Trent's a good man. He's going to be a successful coach. That was a great matchup that year, especially 2000. We went in with the best record, had a week off, and blocked 2 punts in the game, and it just sometimes things don't work out for you. And I don't think Trent had a first down in the second half, and they won the game, and then they go ahead and beat the Giants in the Super Bowl, who we handled pretty easily early in the season as well. But I'm looking forward to watching it. It'll bring back some memories. Those are great matchups, and you start talking about Baltimore, and then you can't help but start thinking about the great matchups we had with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and so another takeaway with all this, and maybe I'm overlooking some things that are relevant now, but players, coaches, everyone gets along now in the league. There is no more hate. There's no more, I'm not speaking to this guy, or I'm definitely not going up to this guy after the game. Everyone's swapping jerseys now after the game, win or lose. I don't get the sense that there was love lost based on the way that the Ravens come across in this 30 for 30 about the Titans of that era.
It wasn't that. I mean, we weren't into that. They wanted, and they had every right to boast, and that was how they got fired up and ready to play. That's fine. That was Brian's MO. That was fine. I never had anything personal against Brian. He's a good coach, and he's coaching a good football team that's hard to beat. But no, I would agree with you. I think there's a lot. Not that there was disrespect. It just you didn't go out of your way to love on your neighbor, if you will. But
I don't know what 30 for 30 in 20 years. Looking back on this season, right? I don't know what you're going to talk trash about the other team anymore.
Yeah, they'll. Trust me, there's you can dream up a lot of stuff over 20 years and fabricate a lot of stuff. So who knows? It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, Chad, they bought every player in Philly. That's, okay.
Some of it sounds like exaggeration. I will say, like watching the first 30, 45 minutes of it, I'm thinking, is all of this true? Are we sure about that? It starts with this celebration of the team. So they keep cutting back and forth. They had some amphitheater up in Baltimore where they brought back the key players and coaches from the team, and they're doing a Q&A in front of a bunch of fans. So that's a big part of it also. So there's a lot of storytelling that goes along with it.
So bringing up the Ravens doesn't get Fisher fired up. What does is the NFL is rigged group section that's out there. Jeff, your thoughts on the response from just the section of the public that wants to throw this out there. Now, we're going to have later, there have been some really funny responses where people have leaned into it, joking, like tongue-in-cheek responses on the rigged nature of it. But with your officiating background on the NFL officiating committee, the rules committee, and just knowing the overall silence of the league when it comes to officiating, your reaction when you hear, oh, game was rigged, it's over, they wanted Kansas City to win that game.
It's absolutely absurd. I mean, I don't know. I mean, was that the Houston Texans former running back that said, I was just vaguely, was brought to my attention.
But he's joking
Arian
about
Foster, was that? He's joking?
Yeah, he's joking around about it.
That's fine if he jokes around about it.
He's following a script, he says.
Okay, well then just let people know that you're joking around about it.
Yeah.
It's physically impossible. I mean, you have that human element in officiating that's there, and I hope it never leaves. You're seeing signs of it leaving when a referee is trying to make an announcement on a penalty enforcement and somebody's talking to him in his ear. Well, that's coming from New York. That bothers me a little bit, but it's not. There's nothing coming down from Park Avenue or New York or officiating on who's supposed to win this and who's not. That's absolutely ridiculous. Now, we've seen rules change because of things that have happened in games where it was who was it? Was it Minnesota? It was Minnesota and New Orleans. Yeah. So now they decide that we're gonna make pass interference reviewable, which was an absolute nightmare. That had no chance of being successful. But they try to do things like that on a yearly basis. But as far as competitiveness, absolutely not. Every single owner out there is extremely competitive. If they weren't, the others would weed them out. They all want to win. So, and then with respect to New York and the officiating department, they're doing the best they can. I personally don't think they get enough credit because their job's becoming so hard.
Jeff Fisher has been our guest. You got something quick on the way out?
Something we can talk about. Off air that I want to ask him about. Then we can take it on air. But
fair enough.
I want to get his answer off air to this question.
Fish, we're headed to Arizona for the Super Bowl if you want to join us. Clay will be with us tomorrow as we head out to
Clay's paying.
Yeah.
You guys driving?
No. We will not be driving. We will not be driving.
Oh, okay.
We will be flying.
He wants to drive so he can bring the dogs.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for coming in.
Thanks for having me again. And, look forward to doing it soon.
Yeah, absolutely. He will be no stranger to OutKick and Fox and what we're doing with OutKick 360. Jeff Fisher has been our guest in studio. Also, speaking of working for Fox, Tom Brady does now officially. But when? He'll tell you next on OutKick 360.
I witnessed, Dennis Price and C-Spray and all these people just do such amazing things, and we continue to get asked about Afghanistan and what we didn't do in Ukraine. Like, why would you, beyond Aziz, it's no brainer why I would go help Aziz. Why would we continue to help these people? And I think the easy answer is the right thing to do. When the governments of the world completely failed, including our own, it was very discouraging. But what brought me hope was to see that when the governments of the world failed, good people stood up and did what the governments wouldn't do and couldn't probably do, and did the right thing. And that was really encouraging for me, because I think all of us kind of struggle with hope in our country right now because of the political divide and things that we don't agree with. But it was really hopeful to see that when the governments don't do the right thing, people do. And one of the things myself and C-Spray were asking in this interview was, why would you do it? And of course we said, because it's the right thing to do. But C-Spray was asked a question that I think is important that we can all learn from. He was asked, was it worth it? Was it worth it? And he said, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be worth it to do the right thing. And whether it's something like this or in your personal lives, I think we all have the ability to do the right thing in our own little spheres of our life. And we always try to balance the ROI. What are we going to get out of it? What's the return on investment? But it doesn't always have to be worth it to do the right thing. And in this case, I don't know if it was worth it or not. I thought it was worth it to Aziz and his family and the 17,000 Afghans. And I believe that burden God put in our heart. I think it was worth it to God for us to be obedient and go do that call. But I think the world could learn something from from this, that there is hope, that there's good people around and will stand up, do the right things. People that supported us were not people that I typically agree with. There's a lot of people that follow me on Instagram that hate me and bash me for my conservative views and stuff like that. But they were writing me like, hey, I don't like you, but what you're doing is awesome. And where can I support? Where can I give money? And it was so cool. And we had this Jewish organization that they wanted to pay for 2 planes, which was like $1.5 million, a big donation. And they called me back and they said, hey, we tried to make the donation, but we can't do it. And I was like, oh, why? Did I give you the wrong routing number or something? They said, no, we're a Jewish organization, and Mighty Oaks Foundation, my foundation, is a Christian organization, and we can't give you that money. And I said, okay, but you do realize we're rescuing Muslims, right? And we kind of laughed and moved forward, and they made that donation. It was just an amazing moment in time where politics, religion, like nothing else mattered besides good people standing up and do the right thing for other people. And it'll always be like just super special to me to have been part of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the whole thing. And like I said to the audience, go ahead and get the book, Saving Aziz. You can get it anywhere you want to get books. It's an incredible story, and I think it's something young people especially should learn about. And everyone, because it does go to show that there's good people. You know, everyone wants to be at each other's throats these days. That's kind of what the media teaches you to do. Hate each other. Everyone's a villain. If you disagree, you have to hate. Not true. Not true at all. So I think your story is represents that you can, a lot of good out there. Now on the Ukraine, because I do want to talk about this, because the war is ongoing. What was your experience when it comes to the situation in Ukraine?
Well, it's changed. It's changed since I began. You know, it started in February. We had ceasefires on the ground before the invasion because we knew it was coming. We were watching it unfold. And then I went immediately after the invasion. I was in Ukraine, days after the invasion. And originally we went there to see, hey, how can we help? Afghanistan is a lot different. People couldn't go in Afghanistan and load up mass amounts of people to get them out. We were able to do that. Ukraine, people could drive a bus across the border, open the door, load it up, and get people out. So the mass evacs were not something we needed to do. And one of the things about special operations is you do what's special, you do what other people can't.
Tom Brady, done with football. He's in the theater near you with 80 for Brady. And he's on with Colin Cowherd, where he says he doesn't expect to join the Fox broadcast booth this year.
career. And I think for me, I want to be great at what I do. And even, talking even last week with the people at Fox Sports, and the leadership there allowing me to start, my Fox opportunity in the fall of 2024 is something that's great for me. So take some time to really learn, become great at what I want to do, become great at thinking about the opportunity and making sure I don't rush into anything. I think when people really bet on me, I think one thing about my career, whether I was when I was drafted by the Patriots or signing for free agency with the Bucs, I wanted to be, fully committed, and I never wanted to let people down. I think my biggest motivator was that. So, even in the future, I want to be great at what I do, and that always takes some time and strategizing and learning and growing and evolving, and I have so many people to rely on that can support me in that growth too. So it's going to be a great opportunity for me to take some time to really certainly become at my Fox broadcasting job, which I'm really looking forward to, but also catching up on other parts of my life that need some time and energy.
There's Tom Brady with Colin Cowherd earlier.
Yeah, I think that's a smart move by Tom Brady to take that time and decide, ultimately how he's going to start with Fox, and he's talking about how he wants to get better and to not let anyone down. I think all those things are smart. And just in general, the guy's been playing football his entire life for the most part. To take a year to not jump right back into it after one off season to calling games next year is just smart for him. He's got the money. He's got the opportunity to spend time with his kids and his family. He's got the opportunity to do some other things that interest him business-wise. Makes a lot of sense to take this year off and then start with Fox in 2024.
Do you see where he modeled like the models of his Brady brand?
I did see that.
Because he made some bet that if he got to so many likes, he would try to model the clothes the same way.
Yeah, he's in a pair of
it's just underwear.
What looks like tighty whities, but they're maroon. Is what I saw. It's like the underwear, but maroon. Yeah, I saw that. Look,
constantly selling.
The guy is going to be able to do
whatever he wants,
anything that he wants. So if he's going to do this with Fox, might as well take a year to do what he wants while also getting better as a broadcaster, to know how he wants to come across, what he wants to do. So he's at tip-top shape for his broadcasting game when he starts. It's a different scenario, so everything is kind of unprecedented when he signed that contract while playing. That promissory note, essentially, to say, I'm going to be the Fox lead broadcaster whenever I start. So all of it's new.
Well, and it's great for Burkhardt and Olsen, who have done a tremendous job. They'll be on the call for the Super Bowl this year. Of course, CBS has it next year. And then the following season, I say next year, following the 2023 season, then the following season is when Brady is saying that he's focused on stepping in to begin the 10-year run. The $37.5 million.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. We know what Burkhardt's going to be doing, the games of Brady. But what happens with Greg Olsen when Tom Brady comes on board? And I don't know his contract situation.
A lot can change, yeah.
But where he's going to end up going, or just staying at Fox and doing different games.
We have some of the best NFL is rigged, quote-unquote, script memes and jokes and tongue-in-cheek posts. That's all coming up in hour number 3. But we'll kick off the hour with former Gators and Bulldogs head coach Dan Mullen, who joins us in about 5 minutes. Join us with Coach Mullen next on OutKick 360.
College football's in trouble. There's a lot of people trying to keep it from happening.
I think it's a general consensus across the college football landscape. We want to play football.
College football is a huge part of the fall. It's a huge part of Americana itself.
It just really felt like people in the country needed college football to just feel a little sense of normal.
Well, big news from the Big Ten as the conference releasing its 10-game football schedule.
We go home thinking that we're going to be practicing the next day. Everybody gets a text, stay home, everything's canceled.
Big Ten fall football season has been canceled.
We just believe collectively there's too much uncertainty.
I guess what I'm trying to understand, though, Kevin, is that was the same position you had 6 days ago.
The Big Ten is an unmitigated disaster.
There was a ton of confusion. There was presidents saying one thing, there was coaches saying another.
Players had to be silent, coaches had to be silent, ADs had to be silent.
People said, how does what you just did make any sense?
And nobody really knew what the heck happened when they voted to cancel the season.
You make this huge historical announcement, and then Kevin Warren never does a press conference to explain it. It was like a masterclass in how not to handle a crisis.
The word really that was lacking in all of this is transparency.
It felt like a lot of stuff was happening behind closed doors.
Even today, we still don't know what occurred.
So you don't tell us parents, that's fine, but you're not telling the young men that it affects.
We have to make a decision to save the season. What about the history books? What about the rivalry games? What about Paul Bunyan's axe? How is that not going to go to a team this year?
This is a failure of epic magnitude. The Big Ten presidents and leaders should be held accountable for the disastrous decisions that they're making.
Then the commissioner doubles down, saying his decision will not be revisited.
And that's the point. It felt like a war was declared on the Big Ten and Kevin Warren.
Everything turned political.
Because if this is medical, then you would have stopped the game of football a long time ago.
I think the Big Ten leaders will tell you that they probably made a mistake in hindsight.
If I had the chance to do it all over last year, I would make the same decisions that we made.
Just like that, the final hour is here of the Monday edition. Glad you're with us as we broadcast live in Music City and across the OutKick network. With Rowan Hutton with you. And Chad, we here in Nashville. We are back tomorrow, and then we are live on Radio Row throughout the week.
4 more hours of OutKick 360 in Nashville, and then we are in the desert from literally and figuratively. From Wednesday through Friday on the show, we will be in the desert at the Super Bowl. Looking forward to it. Always a lot of fun. We'll have a lot of great guests for you those 3 days on the show. Can't wait.
Recapped a bit of the headlines from the week. It included the Pro Bowl, which was about what you would expect. Chad, they always have great viewership for that. But also the storyline with Aaron Rodgers, and he's not trying to hide the fact that he's interested in the Raiders. He keeps mentioning the team, and so does Devontae Adams.
Speaking of viewers, we did get the numbers. 80 for Brady, finished second at the box office. 12.5 million at the box office.
Okay, so that's half of their budget.
Knock at the Cabin Door was 14.5, number one. 80 for Brady beat Avatar 2, The Way of Water, this week. They were third.
What an upset.
So, that's not all bad.
Still have not heard of from anyone who's actually seen Avatar, but it made $2 billion.
People watched it, just not anyone we knew.
Dan Mullen joins us, former Florida Gators and Mississippi State head coach, now broadcaster. Joins us on OutKick 360. Talk a little ball here with Coach Mullen. First off, thank you for the time. Hope things are well. The last time you and I and Chad were in person was at the Opryland Hotel at a coaches convention in Nashville. It's been a while.
You were the coach of Mississippi State at the time, in fact.
Yeah, and at the time, Dan, we were talking in person about the Rams opening, about you getting to the NFL, And a couple of weeks ago, we're like, where is Mullen's name in all of these coaching searches? Are you enjoying the television aspect so much that, NIL and everything else is just not worth it?
I really am. I think, you never say never with going back to coaching and, possibly the NFL and at that level. But I've really enjoyed the TV side of things. Really enjoyed the lifestyle it brings. You're still involved in the game. And you know what? It was new. It was exciting for me this year. I had a great time. And it's something I want to try to continue to improve on. I had a lot of great experiences with the opportunity to be in studio, to call some games, to be at the championship game and some shows on set. And it was a lot of fun. And it was just a whole different world and something that was a lot of fun to try. And but we'll see what the future holds. You never know what it'll hold in the end.
Now, you did a really good job on television this season also. But you know a lot of people obviously in coaching, and some that are out of it, some that are still in it. Do you sense a lot of fatigue with the current state of college coaching, with NIL and transfer portal and everything, with coaches currently in the profession? Or is it not as big of a driving force away from it that maybe we in the media might think?
I think there's some. I think fatigue's not maybe not the exact thing. I do think it does wear you out, wear you down. I'm talking to some of the coaches that I know and that are out there. They just, the uncertainty of it. I don't know they love exactly where the game's at. And you look at what a lot of people, the great rewards of coaching were helping young people develop. And you have this young guy you go recruit out of high school, and he comes to your school, and you get a degree and you develop them, and they go from not maybe a highly rated recruit, then they leave when they get a degree, they want to get a great job, start a business, start a career, become a doctor, become lawyers, whatever it is they're going to do, go into the NFL and have the opportunity to play pro. And I think a lot of that has changed. I think you could see the change coming. I think one of the things the coaches are frustrated about that I've talked to, and even I know, is you saw the change coming a couple of years ago, and the NCAA and a lot of people just kind of wanted to bury their head in the sand about it and said, we really don't want to listen to what the coaches have to say about it. We want all the players need their rights and this. And I think they missed the boat on the coaches were on the player side. I don't know if you'd ever talk to coaches and think, hey, we want to give the players as much as they can get. What's the best way to either give them money, to get them paid, to find different ways to give them more? And the original one, the NCAA was, I remember you go back a couple of years ago, they can have bagels. I'm like, okay, they can have a bagel after workout. We're like, well, okay, that's a step, but not really where we want to go. And so I think a lot of the frustration brewed from that, and that it's changing a lot of things, and it's changing a lot of things that guys loved about coaching and developing players into more of this kind of a free agent system. But as always, coaches have kind of always had to adapt to the roles that are given them, and I think that's what they're starting to do now.
So, Coach, if we saw this on the horizon before it actually happened, the coaches behind the scenes definitely did, as you're mentioning. What is on the horizon now? Where are we headed? That's inevitable. Are we headed towards a union? Are we headed towards contracts? Like, what's the next phase of this that no one's talking about yet?
Well, I think the issue is everybody wants to talk about the problems, but no one has the solution. So I think a couple of years ago when it came up, with the coaches with NIL, I remember being in a meeting with the NCAA and saying, hey, it's 100% going to be about recruiting. And they're like, no, have nothing to do with recruiting. It's only really going to be about players that, have value to their name and can sign contracts. And I mean, you just sit there and shake your head like, you're kidding me. The whole thing's recruiting based, The coaches are going to look for a way to utilize this. So I think that the issue is, and I'm not an attorney on this one, is finding the legal answers to go and fix the problem, and so you can sit there and say, let the players unionize, we're going to contract and put you under contract. It still brings no balance if there's still name, image, and likeness beyond that. Because, you sit there and say, okay, here's your salary cap for players or what's set. Then you just have guys, boosters say, well, we're going to get you another contract out there with endorsing a product. So I don't know. The one solution may be you go to unionize the players. There's a salary cap that's agreed upon. within that to give the universities a little bit more control. They own the player's name, image, and likeness rights under that contract so that they can go back and sell the endorsements to go pay for these contracts and raise money. But then all of a sudden the endorsement money goes back to then the schools. And they don't have the ability to go create endorsements for themselves beyond that. That could bring a balance. I don't know the legality of that or who you could get to agree to that. Because I think you see when you look at the NFL, there's a great salary cap, but players go and negotiate their own contracts beyond that for their endorsements. But that's big money, and you know what? NFL teams aren't going to sit there and they legally can't find ways to pay you more where boosters probably still could. The NFL teams don't have boosters to go kind of beat the salary cap to get you to play for a team.
Your successor at Mississippi State was Mike Leach. We obviously lost him recently. What was he like to deal with, whether it be at SEC coaches meetings or any other time you were around him? There's all these great stories about Mike Leach, the person, but what was your interaction with him like, especially as someone who took over a job after you left it?
Yeah, I think, there was a gap in between he and I, but in talking with Mike in SEC meetings and getting there was kind of interesting. I think his first year was, I was only in there, I think 2 years with him in SEC meetings. And his first year was kind of adapting to the league, and it was Zoom meetings and nothing in person. So his personality doesn't come out sometimes when it's just the Zoom meeting. It was actually almost me laughing because it's a Zoom meeting. He's sitting at a desk. I'm like, hey, that was my desk. Like I'm almost want to text him. Hey, I used to sit at that desk. But kind of goofy things that way. And but I always thought he was great. I think after he got a little adapted to the league and what it was all about, I think he's extremely intelligent, extremely insightful when it came to the game, and looked at what was good for the game. He had his own unique way of doing things. I think one of the things he brought to the table was that there's not just one way to do something. You'd be successful a lot of different ways. He had his way, he believed in it, but he was always a thinker and trying to learn other people's ways and thoughts and ideas, not that he was going to maybe incorporate into what he was doing, but just to go learn it. And that way, I had a great time. We got to go back. I was in Starkville last summer. We were there visiting friends. We're out at a dinner, and one of the guys that was, a booster there said, hey, I'm having some people over, Coach. Why don't you stop by? And Mike said, if you're going to come by, he'll stop by. So we've got to go hang out for a little bit at this one guy's house. And everybody's in the backyard. Rocky Felker, another Mississippi State head coach, came by. It was kind of a great time just telling stories. Mike's such a great storyteller, such a great guy to be around, and a fun guy. And he can, he can talk about it. Loves talking about football, but he really can talk about any subject. And, and I think it's great when you have the coaches around that were around other people, because we're all sharing stories about football and how we did things and what we did and how they're a little bit different. I don't think I've ever had a bad night hanging out with Mike.
Dan Mullen, our guest on OutKick 360. Your relationship with Dak Prescott is well documented. Even going back through the year he was franchise tagged, I believe, even after Mississippi State in his early career with Dallas, Coach, the story was you picked up the phone, you called him whenever he dislocated his ankle, I believe it was, and he was out for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And that was rough. He gets hurt early on this past season and comes back. Dallas is one of the top teams in the league, but there's still just something missing there. What needs to happen for Prescott to reach the full potential in the NFL?
I think the big one, and unfortunately I got to go out to see one of the games this year. My son and I went out to go see him play in this game. He got hurt. It was right at the beginning of the season and hurt his thumb. And I knew it, that was a tough one because it was on his throwing hand. So I don't know, with something like that, he wants to get back. He wants to get on the field and play. He's such a competitor, and that's one of those deals of gripping a football. I don't know for sure. I haven't asked him or talked to him about it. I just always tell him, hey, make sure you get yourself healthy, get back. And I know you're going to get yourself back, but I don't know if he was ever really 100% again the whole season with something like that. It's just something that kind of nags, and it's still there for him throughout the year. One of the things I think, and he's such a great leader and wants to, and he makes everybody else around him better. I think, when you look at it though, the NFL is a tough league, and the NFL is set for balance. And and there's windows, and I think a lot of times you look I'm not in the locker room, I'm not there every day with them and everything going on, and I think they really at times could use another weapon maybe on the outside for him. I always looked at football this way. Here's a great way to look at teams. And you got to figure it out. And especially if you want to win a championship, how are you going to score touchdowns? Right? I mean, you can have great players, but who can score touchdowns on your team? You go look at the Super Bowl coming up here this weekend. You can name a bunch of guys on each team that can score a touchdown. And I don't mean from the 2-yard line. It's because it's awful hard to go drive the ball. And the tighter you get to the goal line, the harder it is to score. And any great offensive team that I've been on has guys that can score touchdowns. So I was looking at the Cowboys, and you get to watch them, and I watch Dak, and all of a sudden in the NFL, you get a guy hurt, like Tony Pollard gets banged up. He's a guy that can score touchdowns from him from further away. And in the NFL, you don't have a lot of those guys. You look at great college teams. They have guys that can score touchdowns, and not because it's hard to go on 12-play drives up and down the field against great teams. So at some point, you're going to need that, and I think it'll be interesting to see. In the NFL, a lot of times, that people always ask me, "What about this team, that team?" I'm like, all right, we'll start with we'd always start our meetings every year. Let's build our offense. What do we want to be? Run, throw, tempo, no tempo, all those things. Let's put up on the board who can score touchdowns for us, and then we'll build it off of those guys because we need to make sure they get the ball in the hands to see if they can get in the end zone.
Yeah, and Chad, in Philly's case, it seems like their depth, they've got guys on their depth chart that can do that. You see that in college, but not NFL.
You see that everybody, and you can defensive coaches can take guys out of games. If you have one guy that can score, for the most part, you can kind of try to take that one guy out of the game. That might not always happen, but you're going to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to eliminate this guy from a game. Now, if you don't have anybody else that can score, I look at both these teams. You're going to put AJ Brown's over there. He can score a touchdown. Then Devontae Smith can score for the Eagles. And then the tight end, Goddard, he can score. And Jalen Hurts can score. You go to the Chiefs, and you better stop Kelsey. And if you stop Kelsey, though, all of a sudden Mahomes, if he's healthy, can run around. But even if he's not, they do. Andy Reid does such a good job of having weapons on the field. You look at their team, and it's like they might not be a pure X receiver or an H receiver, but they have these weapons, and he puts all of them in different positions. That I had Kadarius Toney play for me that's playing for the Chiefs. You put the ball in his hands, and he can score a touchdown. And and so I think Andy does such a good job, as good as maybe anybody in football, or probably the best in football, of putting those guys in positions to score. So I'm excited. I have 7 guys that played for me playing in the Super Bowl, so it's going to be pretty fun.
That's really cool. But going by your plan, though, about, good coach can say, if you got one guy who can score, you can take that away. The Eagles, they have great depth, obviously. They don't really have a weakness in any spot, offense or defense. But if you're going to try to implement that plan, do you try to do it against the Chiefs, given Kelsey, and then a drop-off to everyone else on that roster outside of Mahomes? Or is that still difficult because of what you said about Andy Reid and how he's going to get other guys the ball?
I still think the starting point is trying to take Kelsey away. The hardest thing that when you play the Chiefs that Andy does is it's like finding Waldo. Like, where's Waldo? Kelsey, he's going to play every different position on the field. And it gets a little harder schematically because, all right, he's in the backfield. Oh, he's playing X receiver. Now he's in the slot. Now he's at tight end, and they move him around. And the structure of your defense sometimes can get out of whack. Okay, hey, we're going to double this guy, but now he's in the tight end position, and we just left their number one receiver all by himself out there. So, now the benefit, the Eagles are going to have is sit there and say, okay, well, we're going to use our safeties and linebackers. We're going to have a plan for Kelsey, and then we're going to go take our corners, big play Slay, and we're going to go now. He's going to go eliminate another receiver. And we're going to say he can eliminate a receiver. We're going to combo Kelsey on the inside, and then let the next guy try to beat us. And, that's kind of how the best way to do it. If you better have some talent and depth to eliminate players.
How will you watch the game, given that you have 7 former players playing in this game? What is the Dan Mullen plan to watch the Super Bowl?
I root for my guys. So, you know what? It's always kind of tricky. So, like, right when the Chiefs have the ball, I'll root for Kadarius Toney. But, I got a bunch of guys on the Eagles defense. So I want to see Fletcher Cox go out there and make a bunch of plays and slay and go out there and CJ Gardner-Johnson, the defense of the Eagles. I got a couple guys over there. Then you go in and the Chiefs run on the field. I'm rooting probably a lot more for defense, which is weird as an offensive guy. Because then, they got Chris Jones and Willie Gay out there and Tommy Townsend's punting for the Chiefs. So, and then I'll like scour the guys because I think I have 3 more guys that are in practice squads on the team. So I'll be like looking at the sidelines just to see them on the sidelines for the guys. So you just kind of get guys. And then obviously, I think Brian, you look at one of the Eagles, the huge resurgence, what Jalen Hurts has done was Brian Johnson, who played for me, was my offensive coordinator, is the quarterback coach now for the Eagles. And you look at what he's been able to do in helping, develop Jalen Hurts and implement the things, So I'll be like watching and I'll laugh and he'll call me and I'll just say, hey, that was a staple in our offense. He goes, he'll be like, yep, we put that in, we put this in, and some of the things help Jalen Hurts out a lot. So always look for him on the sideline. So it'll be the nice thing is at the end of the game, there's going to be people I'm going to be really happy.
Dan Mullen has been our guest, and who knows, maybe future head coach by the time you join us again. I hope not. I hope it's sooner rather than later. I hope you're coaching again.
I hope I keep coming on this like broadcasting deal though. Like, this top analyst for games or whatever it is.
Yeah, man.
I enjoy it. It's like you guys do. You guys are out here. You enjoy it. You enjoy talking sports without some of the craziness. You're involved in it. You're in the game. You're around it all the time. Maybe without some of the drama. I am coaching a little bit of helping the high school team out here locally. So I get a little fix getting out there coaching up some of the high schoolers.
So you're doing just enough, right, to where you don't miss it so much that you're jumping right back in.
Well, as my wife says, my son's out there playing now, and I would have never got to see him play, so I'm out there, and she's like, you really need to be on the sidelines because I'm pacing around. Now that you're kind of out of it, like coaches watching their kids are like a special animal. Like they need like a glass box for us in the end zone of games, just because we're like a music of pacing and we know what's going on, and you're like. You don't want to like be a distraction, but you're yelling out, like, hey, they're one high, throw this, like, come this. Like I'm chewing on my water bottle, trying not to say stuff. Just like,
do you feel like, Coach,
it's a lot of fun.
Do you feel like you're in a spot now, though, where you can be pretty picky in terms of opportunity when coaching, whenever you're ready to coach again, if it's the time that you can kind of sit back and wait on the right opportunity?
Yeah, I don't know. It's tough because like the right opportunity might not. If I'm ready, the right opportunity might not be there. I think timing's a lot of things that are out there, and I don't know what the right opportunity would be. There's so many great opportunities, and a lot of coaching, and it's what you make of it. I thought a lot of people were scratching their head when I went to Starkville, and I stayed there for a long time, and I loved being the head coach of Mississippi State. I love the community. I love the Mississippi State fan base and everybody there and everything about it. And it just was the place I wanted to be. There were opportunities a lot when I was there, and I just never felt ready to take one. And when the Florida opportunity came around, I thought, I thought I'd done an awful lot for Mississippi State. And I was ready for a different challenge. And I thought, but they're maybe ready for somebody new at this point, and you could stay there forever. You could do this. But you know what? I thought in college football, everybody, the today's world, everybody gets a little bit bored of you, right? I had somebody tell me once, you get your first year, you get a grace period coaching, maybe 2 years, then you kind of annoy 10% of the fan base every year after that. So, I was at Mississippi State for 9 years. About 80% of them are about fed up with me at that point, But, you get opportunities to go do that and go move on. So we'll see. I think a lot of it, I'm enjoying time with my family. I do. I really enjoy the TV side of things, and I want to see where that takes me. And all of a sudden, like anything, I guess as a coach, I'm a competitor. And, in coaching, you want to go out there every week. You want to be the best. And I want to try to be the best I can be on the broadcasting side now, and see if I can continue to improve. I'm excited this offseason to get to spend with some, being on ESPN, to spend some time with people on ESPN and say, take me through what I did well. Take me through what I did poorly. How am I getting better? If I'm going to be, what am I going to be doing, and how do I do those things better to perform at a higher level? And it's just kind of how I was raised and brought up, and that's what I'm going to look at doing this spring.
Follow him on social at Coach Dan Mullen. Thanks so much for the visit. Always great, and hopefully we'll do it again soon.
Yeah, anytime. Sounds great to be with you guys. Have a great time. Enjoy the Super Bowl this week. It's the saddest thing about the Super Bowl is when the game ends, it's like, oh my goodness, there's no more football.
Yeah, it's a long winter.
The countdown is on.
It's a long way till we get to watch some football, guys. Just like, it's sad. At least we have like the USFL and the XFL and some of that stuff coming up. And I remember growing up when I was young, I loved the original USFL. I thought I kind of got into it, and I got to try to find a way to get into some of these spring leagues a little bit.
Oh, and then here comes the debate about the quarterbacks too in the draft. So, I mean, that's already started.
We'll have NFL draft also, which will be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fun. We'll get into that one and break that down. So,
hey, appreciate you, man. We'll catch up soon.
Sounds great. Have a great day.
All right, you too. There's Dan Mullen. Always enjoyed our conversations with him.
Yeah.
And this one, no different. Very cool dude. And I do hope he's back into coaching soon.
Yeah, I remember that conversation you referenced at Opryland Hotel here in Nashville at the coaches convention, and talking to him then, and you could hear his interest in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
When he was talking about that as Mississippi State's head coach, you can hear him talk about the Super Bowl there, and it's not difficult to bridge the gap there and say, this guy with a lot of interest in the NFL. I don't know where his next coaching opportunity is going to come, but it may be an NFL opportunity at some point for Dan Mullen.
The script just didn't call for that in the league. The scripted.
What script do you mean? The one for white men can't jump?
No, the NFL is rigged.
This is
script.
the NFL script.
Just
Gotcha.
follow the script. There have been some really funny memes, tweets, videos, posts of players, former players, media members, others that have leaned into the NFL as scripted examples. We've got those for you coming up. Plus, the headlines from Sean Payton's introductory press conference. That's next on OutKick 360.
It's so crazy because Tom Brady is just a touch older than me. I believe now there are no NFL players older than me, which that's the first time in my life I can say that.
Okay.
So now I feel really old. Now I feel truly and really old.
I'm sorry, man. God, that's horrible. I didn't know that feeling. I'm
Maybe
sorry.
there's a punter or a kicker. I have to check. Maybe I'm hoping there's like an old, like a long time punter, kicker, or a long snapper that's older than me, but I don't think so. And it's amazing to me thinking about Brady the last few years. Like, I know how I feel when I wake up in the morning. I can't even imagine attempting to play in the NFL like this.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if last season should have happened, but that's not up for me. It's not for anybody to sit there and argue.
I don't have the drive Tom Brady has. I'm very willing to admit that.
Right.
It seemed to me, just as an outsider with no inside information whatsoever, that he retired and that he engaged in normal life for the first time in a long time. Was like, yeah, this sucks. I'm getting back to the NFL.
I don't like the daycare thing. I love my kids, but I don't like dropping it off. I don't want to go play pickleball at 3:00 in the afternoon. Like, let's get back to normal. But it'd be interesting. Like, I don't know if we'll see another quarterback take it that far, Andy, in the NFL. Like, he really pushed
got
the
Aaron
limits,
Rodgers,
right?
Yeah, you got Aaron Rodgers going to be 39. You got him hinting at retirement now, and it does feel like the game's maybe taking a little more toll on his body than Brady. Maybe there's some ayahuasca that'll fix that, but it's crazy that it lasted this long. I mean, I think back to how much my life, I graduated college in 2000, and working my first job, watching Tom Brady lead the Patriots when they were the underdogs to the win against the Rams in the Super Bowl, and thinking, well, that's a cool story. 6th-round guy, hope the career works out for him. And the level of winning and just consistency, I'm not sure we're going to see it again.
No. And I don't, especially with a quarterback who has that tenacity, he also puts in everything into the game. It's like he can't take a breather. And it just, he has a different workflow. It kind of reminded me of what Kobe Bryant used to do in the NBA. Or you can go on and name them on.
Yeah.
But now, but I'm interested to see now, what that looks like in the future, and does this, and I'll ask you this, because this news could break while we're down here in Mobile. Todd Monken, Georgia offensive coordinator. Does this make room for him now to potentially say, okay, I can go to Tampa, we can go find a quarterback that works for me in my system, and maybe take over the offensive coordinator position? What have your thoughts been on the Monken Buccaneer stuff?
Are you ready for Stetson Bennett as the Buccaneers starting quarterback? Are we ready to live in a world where Stetson Bennett makes that pirate ship go boom? Can
I'm
that
excited.
happen?
It can in the 6th round.
It's very interesting because, Monken, I think, you look at that tenure with Jameis Winston in Tampa, it didn't go as well as anybody would have wanted. And maybe Monken going, well, if I had a different quarterback, one who didn't put the ball in harm's way as often, perhaps that works out.
OutKick 360 rolls on. Chad, most of this, I would say, is the emotional fan that reacts whenever their team does not have success, or the refs screwed us, right? That immediately jumped on board with this is rigged. They wanted the Chiefs to win this game against Cincinnati, or, the whole process, the path for Philadelphia set up for this story with the Eagles. But if you actually sit back and look at it, I think the common sense fan would say, you know what? They didn't put the Green Bay Packers in Week 18. They put Seattle in. So if you're buying into the NFL is rigged, you have to also buy into the fact that there are plenty of examples of quote-unquote scripts that the NFL definitely would not have written given the circumstances.
Well, and it's also, it's just easier mentally to explain, to rationalize that someone's out to get you, as opposed to the truth, which is you just got unlucky with a bad call, or by human error,
and earlier you didn't make the play,
or you just your team just didn't do enough to win. That's harder for the fan to rationalize than to just say, oh, they've got it out for us. Oh, we were on the road, so that the refs wanted the hometown team to win.
Yeah.
Or, oh, Roger Goodell wanted this quarterback to advance. That's easier to say, and it makes you feel better, right? When you claim that,
or you hate this owner, so it's totally against someone else,
right?
Arian Foster stirred some stuff up with the comments, the tongue-in-cheek stuff with Barstool. Here are the initial comments with PFT whenever PFT is asking Foster about the NFL is rigged and receiving a script each year?
It's funny, before we started taping, Arian was telling me about how the NFL is rigged and how every year he used to get a script.
Yeah.
Day one of training camp that would get dropped off at his locker. And you would have to, it was like week 1, you'll do this. Week 2, you're going to have a hamstring injury. Week 3, this is going to happen. Week 4, you're going to get 3 touchdowns. And so then you just have to, did you memorize those before the season started? Or would you go and rehearse the script before every game?
We were really dedicated to it. So it was more so like, that's what practice was about. It was about practicing the script. Like, this is what goes on and this is what we have to do in order to,
And this referee is going to miss this call. Because they hate you and they love the Colts, that sort of thing.
WWF, so it's like, you know, we know what's going to happen, but you still got to put on a show.
Yeah.
What did you think when you got the script in 2016 that said your career was going to fall off a cliff when you stopped believing in God?
That was 2015.
It just the macro dosing pod is where you can find that. That's
terrific.
Again,
work.
that's the funny reaction to everyone that says like, "Oh, this stuff is totally scripted." There have been other funny tweets though.
What did you say to the script?
Yeah.
Did you stop believing in God that your career would fall off a cliff?
Like from
good.
Eddie Lacy and his off-season diet plan. Just following the script here, using Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and we'll show the tweet here in just a second, I believe. A very lengthy fast food order though, with Eddie Lacy and the off-season diet plan.
I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large, a number 6 with extra dip, a number 7, 2 number 45s, 1 with cheese, and a large soda.
I don't play video games, but I tore up GTA.
That was my game too. That's crazy. That once again, Chutton strikes again. That's the one game of that era that I played.
That could be Eddie Lacy's off-season diet plan where he blew up.
I would love to have that diet plan. I mean, give me that script any day of the week. Like I love food that's terrible for me. I mean, if there's a script like, hey, blow up by 50 pounds, no problem. I'll do that for you. How long do you need? A month? 2? I can do it for you in whatever time you want. I can make that happen.
More from the funny parts of Twitter. Rush Hour 2 and Chris Tucker at a massage parlor.
You ready? I'm ready. Oh my goodness. This place is off the hook. I love Hong Kong.
You get a massage from Chinese girl before?
No, but I heard it was the bomb.
Come with me. You pick any girl for you and your friend.
Any girl?
Any girl.
Okay. I don't know where to start. I'll take that one right there. She got to come.
Oh, yes. She's very nice.
She is nice, but I hurt my back and my neck, and I need a little bit more massage, So I'm going to take her in the pink, too.
Oh, yes.
And let me get her, hey, baby. And then I'm going to have her. Can I get her, too? And her right there, right there.
So you got the joke, the tucking joke there with Watson, right?
That was Deshaun Watson reading his NFL script.
But also Bob Kraft works into this too, with Orchids of Asia.
Yeah, Robert Kraft. Do you think he was happy when he got that script?
Right.
About what he was going to get popped doing?
Again, the NFL would not script these negative storylines that have dominated off seasons. Both of those did.
No.
And it paints all the owners in a bad light. It's all about protecting the shield, Chad.
It's all about protecting the shield. Now, but those fans who are upset and irate that their team lost, they think the protection of the shield includes, for whatever reason, their team that's one of 32
exactly
being out, and the other one needs to be in for whatever reason.
And the NFL is so scripted that here is, in reference to the Lions, and they're upset that they've never had a good season. They actually have. We just saw it. Good, quote unquote. But
for the Lions.
For the Lions.
Which includes no playoffs.
Here's Skip Bayless yelling at Shannon Sharp.
Yeah, it's my turn. You told me it was my turn.
You can talk all that you want to, yell and scream. You lost.
It is my turn.
You lost the game.
It's my turn.
The Lions always yelling that.
It's my turn. It's my turn is great. If you got the script from the Lions the last 40 years, you'd be screaming, it's my turn too.
We also have the again, the negative storylines. There are fans that will believe that this is all like in the books, right? When I say fans, like conspiracy theorists, like Aaron Hernandez.
Oh no, well, we had a guy on our YouTube chat that believed that DeMar Hamlin was using a body double. That actually believed it.
It's bizarre.
So someone's going to believe this is all real.
Here is a Hernandez training after receiving a script. Again, just asinine. And Arian Foster is getting all of this on Twitter after the tongue-in-cheek segment on his podcast.
So a lot of people thought that was real, I guess, the Arian Foster thing.
I guess if they read the quotes, I don't know how you think that's real.
Well, someone probably picked it up and ran it as real. And if you just read it, like you said, print it out, then you would think that it was something.
Finally, video of Stephen A. Smith playing the role of Nick Foles, finding out he's going to win Super Bowl MVP.
What?
And by the way,
Me?
Oh, very well done.
And we would have had Brock Purdy not get hurt.
The NFL wins again. It would have been a Brock Purdy Super Bowl if the NFL would have stuck to the original script of what they really wanted.
So who would be the Nick Foles of Super Bowl MVP stardom this Sunday? Right? Like the guy who would be shocked that it's going to be him.
Gardner Minshew, because Jalen Hurts goes down early in the game
that's a good
with an
one.
injury.
That's good.
That would be the exact replica of the Eagles' backup quarterback getting it.
Maybe a running back for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Pacheco.
McKinnon.
Yeah. Jason
Good
Kelsey.
question.
Jason Kelsey.
Jason Kelsey. You have to have a stellar performance as a center to win MVP of the Super Bowl. You have to be really good in the run game and protection.
So Sean Payton said today that he's not going to allow the staff members of Russell Wilson's training staff, the performance team, in the building this year. That was one of the main points of conversation following the introductory press conference for Sean Payton today in Denver. When asked about what has been going on the last 12 months, I guess, physical therapists, trainers, others that had a key card to the Broncos facility on behalf of Russell Wilson that were not a part of the team performance crew, staff, coaches, whatever you want to call them. Quote from Sean Payton, "That's foreign to me. That's not going to take place here. I'm not familiar with it, but our staff will be here, our players will be here, and that'll be it." That from Sean Payton.
That's concerning. Not Sean Payton's part of this, the Russell Wilson thing. I didn't know that he had like a team of coaches around him in Denver also. You heard Jeff Fisher say that, I'm paraphrasing, but that he needs to get in better shape. That he looked out of shape this year also.
Yeah, he thought he was playing a little heavy.
Yeah.
That he wasn't. His mobility wasn't the same.
Right.
But
not good.
They were also not running the offense that we saw in Seattle that made Russell Wilson successful. And that's not all on what was happening with Hackett. That could be what Russell Wilson wanted whenever he was traded there, right? But if you believe the reports that he was helping recruit Sean Payton, then Russell Wilson's in on this decision just like Sean Payton's in on this decision. You would think.
Yeah, if not, then Russell Wilson's in for a rude awakening that the coach he petitioned to get and for the team to trade for is coming in and wrecking his plans for his personal coaches to be around. This screams the Alex Guerrero, Tom Brady stuff with Belichick. That was a huge divide for them when he was bringing Guerrero around, if you remember.
Yeah, and
that was a big problem.
But away from the facility, though. Like it was a separate building.
That's where the problem started, though. He was around the facility, and Belichick ordered him out, and then he started going elsewhere because he needed to work with him.
So you think Wilson now builds his own facility? Instead of TB12, you've got...
He's going to say, new facility, let's ride.
Let's ride performance.
Broncos country. This is Team Russell Wilson. Let's ride.
Brian Flores has accepted the Vikings defensive coordinator position. He's headed from being the Steelers' assistant to the Vikings defensive coordinator job. This per Adam Schefter, and this is a mere hours after it was mentioned that the Cardinals had narrowed down to 3 coaches. Flores was one of them, and Kafka was the other who's interviewing for head coaching. He interviewed in Indianapolis as well. Kafka, who left Kansas City to pair up with Brian Daboll, is now reaping the benefits and success of the Giants season. It's a lot like, Chad, Matt LaFleur in Nashville that one year.
Yeah, and what a great gig he landed because of that one year in Nashville.
Yeah, with Green Bay, yeah.
I've got a lot of question marks about that Arizona job. It doesn't seem like one that, we just talked to Dan Mullen about opportunity and being picky.
Mm-hmm.
If you have the luxury of being picky at all about a head coaching gig, you're not touching Arizona. That's the sense I get.
Also, they were mentioning Flores in Denver as well, and he chose Minnesota. There were other options available for him too. We'll read up on the details of this, but this may also mean that he's taking this. Arizona's about to name their next head coach. I haven't seen that report yet. But for Brian Flores,
he caught wind that he's not getting it, possibly.
Yeah, they know that they're going in a different direction. If not, I don't know why you would take a DC job when you're in a lawsuit for being used to as a scapegoat in Miami, right? Like you would wait on the head coaching position.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, we'll see if Arizona's about to announce something in the next 15 minutes or so before wrapping up the show. We've got headlines coming up. Chad, you have a review of 80 for Brady.
Yeah, we had the Sterling review from Alejandro Avila on Friday. My Aunt Mitzi went to the movie for her birthday. She did not see Knock at the Cabin Door. She saw 80 for Brady. She did not see Avatar 2, Way of Water. She saw 80 for Brady, and she sent me a lengthy text with a review that we will review when we come back.
That's next on OutKick 360.
I witnessed, Dennis Price and C-Spray and all these people just do such amazing things, and we continue to get asked about Afghanistan and what we didn't do in Ukraine. Like, why would you, beyond Aziz, it's no brainer why I would go help Aziz. Why would we continue to help these people? And I think the easy answer is the right thing to do. When the governments of the world completely failed, including our own, it was very discouraging. But what brought me hope was to see that when the governments of the world failed, good people stood up and did what the governments wouldn't do and couldn't probably do, and did the right thing. And that was really encouraging for me, because I think all of us kind of struggle with hope in our country right now because of the political divide and things that we don't agree with. But it was really hopeful to see that when the governments don't do the right thing, people do. And one of the things myself and C-Spray were asking in this interview was, why would you do it? And of course we said, because it's the right thing to do. But C-Spray was asked a question that I think is important and we can all learn from. He was asked, was it worth it? Was it worth it? And he said, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be worth it to do the right thing. And whether it's something like this or in your personal lives, I think we all have the ability to do the right thing in our own little spheres of our life. And we always try to balance the ROI, what are we going to get out of it? What's the return on investment? But it doesn't always have to be worth it to do the right thing. And in this case, I don't know if it was worth it or not. I thought it was worth it to Aziz and his family and the 17,000 Afghans. And I believe that burden God put in our heart. I think it was worth it to God for us to be obedient and go do that call. But I think the world could learn something from this, that there is hope, that there's good people around who will stand up and do the right things. People that supported us were not people that I typically agree with. There's a lot of people that follow me on Instagram that hate me and bash me for my conservative views and stuff like that. But they were writing me like, hey, I don't like you, but what you're doing is awesome. And where can I support? Where can I give money? And it was so cool. And we had this Jewish organization that they wanted to pay for 2 planes, which was like $1.5 million, a big donation. And they called me back and they said, hey, we tried to make the donation, but we can't do it. And I was like, oh, why? Did I give you the wrong routing number or something? They said, no, we're a Jewish organization, and Mighty Oaks Foundation, my foundation, is a Christian organization, and we can't give you that money. And I said, okay, but you do realize we're rescuing Muslims, right? And we kind of laughed and moved forward, and they made that donation. It was just an amazing moment in time where politics, religion, nothing else mattered besides good people standing up and do the right thing for other people. And it'll always be just super special to me to have been part of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's the whole thing. And like I said to the audience, go ahead and get the book, Saving Aziz. You can get it anywhere you want to get books. It's an incredible story, and I think it's something young people especially should learn about. And everyone, because it does go to show that there's good people. Everyone wants to be at each other's throats these days. That's kind of what the media teaches you to do. Hate each other. Everyone's a villain. If you disagree, you have to hate. Not true. Not true at all. So I think your story represents that you can, a lot of good out there. Now on the Ukraine, because I do want to talk about this, because the war is ongoing. What was your experience when it comes to the situation in Ukraine?
Well, it's changed. It's changed since I began. It started in February. We had sea sprayers on the ground before the invasion because we knew it was coming. We were watching it unfold. And then I went immediately after the invasion. I was in Ukraine, days after the invasion. And originally we went there to see, hey, how can we help? Afghanistan is a lot different. People couldn't go in Afghanistan and load up mass amounts of people to get them out. We were able to do that. Ukraine, people could drive a bus across the border, open the door, load it up, and get people out. So the mass evacs were not something we needed to do. And one of the things about special operations is you do what's special, you do what other people can't.
AJ Green, who played for the Cardinals and Bengals, has announced his retirement today. OutKick 360 rolls on.
Nice little career for old AJ Green.
34 years old, played 11 seasons, 4th overall in the 2011 draft. And Chad, I went back and looked at the 2011 draft. AJ was 4th overall, so it's Cam Newton, Von Miller, Marcel Darius, AJ Green, Patrick Peterson, Julio Jones, Aldon Smith, Jake Locker, Tyron Smith.
One is not like the other.
J.J. Watt, Robert Quinn, Mike Pouncey. That's just in the top 15.
That's a nice draft in 2011.
That's not bad, yeah. And A.J. Green feels older than that to me for some reason. I don't know why.
It's weird. Like, he feels older than 34, but then when you hear 2011 draft,
right? Yeah,
that seems like it should have been. It was like 2007. I feel like that doesn't feel right.
Yeah, he's got some great numbers, but everyone he's the first player, first receiver, 1,000-yard receiver in his first 5 seasons, 9 seasons for the Bengals, first 5,000 yards each. He only had 2 seasons with more than 900 receiving after that stretch, though. Got kind of buried out, and injuries also played a factor.
Yep.
Chad, injury's not a factor for Tom Brady, but he's retiring. He's also out of the game. AJ, I'm not sure, is going to have a film career, much like Brady's, and you have a family member who went and partook in the debut weekend.
Yeah, I promised my Aunt Mitzi, who loves the show, much like all of my family, loves the show. Aunt Mitzi, for her birthday, went and saw 80 for Brady this weekend. I told her to send me a review. and that we would review the review on this show. By the way, Joe Hutton once turned me on to a very good program, Review, back in the day on Comedy Central. Very underrated show. So here is the review. It was, yes. Much like 80 for Brady will be after this next week in the box office. From my Aunt Mitzi, the movie was better than expected. The trailer does not do it justice. I am not a Brady fan, but he surprised me. Most of his appearances are just clips from games, but he has some one-on-one with Lily Tomlin, and he does a very convincing job Jane Fonda's hair, which looks horrible, but is part of the story. It's definitely a Golden Girls type of movie. They set out to do something that you always wanted to do, but would never let yourself. It could never happen, but it's so fun and funny to see the situations they put themselves in. The serious underlying story plays over to the Super Bowl game, that no matter what the odds, we don't give up, we fight. Pretty good message for a movie. No, it's not a Top Gun level movie, but something fun to enjoy, laugh a little, and let go of life for a few minutes. I will watch it again.
Awesome.
I told my Aunt Mitzi, based on her review, I'm going to watch this thing.
Oh, wow.
I'm not going to the theater. I'm going to wait till it streams, but I will watch it. All because of Mitzi's review. Not Alejandro's, Mitzi's. That's what sold me.
Why can't they make a trailer that looks better?
It's a slice of life, Hutton. You know,
I'm sorry, but
it's a story of just go for it and just live life.
Fun.
And it's the Golden Girls telling us to do this.
Okay, just make the trailer better next time.
The trailer is so bad. I still refuse to believe that a movie with a trailer that bad
is good.
It'd be good.
I agree with you.
Have you seen this? There's a movie. It's streaming now, I think, but it's Gerard Butler, and the name of the movie is just Plane, like an airplane. But someone sent it to me and said, "Wait till the end. The title of the movie will kill you. Will have you crying, laughing." And it's this action-packed thriller of like ex-con on a plane, and then something goes down, and he's got to take it down, and they're in the jungle, and they land the plane in the jungle, and they're all fighting each other, and all this is going on. Then at the end, it's just Plane. Gerard Butler in Plane. And that's it's like they ran out of all creativity at the end.
Where has he been?
Guys, you know what we need to call it? Plane.
Filming Plane.
What's the movie about? Well, they're on a plane. That's it. No, don't tell me anything more. They're on a plane. It's Plane.
Chad has a big softball practice tonight, the first of season 2.
I do. I've got my...
He's got the lineup right here.
Got my group list.
To my left.
Got my group. We break it off into stations for teams. Got to keep kids moving. This is a good lesson for all you young coaches out there. Don't let them stand around too long.
Time to win a title.
So we keep them moving the whole time.
Time to win the title. Coming up tomorrow, hope you'll join us starting at 3 o'clock Eastern. John McClain will be on the show. Trey Wallace and Mike G will join us from OutKick. A lot to discuss with both. And Guns, I believe, is doing the halftime show discussion we'll have tomorrow with who hasn't performed a Super Bowl halftime, who should. We'll give our opinions there as well. Plus, Logan Ryan, Buccaneers corner and longtime teammate, both in New England and in Tampa with Tom Brady. Logan Ryan will be on the show ahead of hitting Radio Row. He's reaching out to us via Zoom. And we'll chat a little bit about Brady's career and also how things have wrapped up for him as well in Tampa.
We're off to Arizona for the Super Bowl.
That's
right after tomorrow's show.
Radio Row coverage throughout the week leading up to Super Bowl 57. Eagles and Chiefs will be previewing that matchup throughout the week right here across the OutKick Network. Thanks for joining us for the Monday edition of OutKick 360.